Let's turn to the idea of socioeconomic class or status in the United States. Economic difference and control of resources measured in money and power are key ways that we sort ourselves out in the United States. Moreover, most scholars recognize that since the 1980s, socioeconomic inequality has been growing in the U.S. and has had profound impact on the wealthy, the middle classes, wage workers, and the poor. At the same time, as anthropologists point out in this module, talking directly about class makes many Americans uneasy, in part because of our egalitarian values and because it may point out the downside of our class system while also threatening the dominant economic and social order. Moreover, the very idea of social classes runs against the strong emphasis on individualism and individual achievement in our culture. In this module, we'll also look at intersections between race and class, particularly among white working class communities and the urban white poor in post-industrial America. By the end of this module, you should be able to demonstrate the following outcomes. Identify and describe key anthropological perspectives, including class, socioeconomic status, social mobility, stratification, conspicuous consumption, class markers or symbols, etc. Explain class and status as dynamic processes situated in history, context, and individual creativity, and the relationship between power and inequality within and among social groups. And utilize anthropological perspectives to demonstrate the ability to reflect on and think critically about current events and processes related to class and social stratification in the world around you. I've often heard that the only ethnic group that it is politically correct to mock in contemporary America is poor whites, often disparaged as hillbillies or white trash. Note that the term white trash is also racially charged, a point that will come up in this module. The first two clips, white trash names from the movie Ted and the song Trailer Park Women, play on class and race-based humor that draws on class-based stereotypes of poor whites. The second two clips take us to Eastern Ohio and Tammy's Story from the 1999 documentary People Like Us, Social Class in America. When I first saw this film, I found Tammy's story and that of her two sons the most compelling. The first clip from 1999 and the second is a follow-up from 2014. This will give us some insight into the unfolding of Tammy and her son's lives over time. These clips are followed by a Canvas discussion. There's one narrated presentation in this module, Reflections on Class in America. The second item listed here, the conflation of race, class, and identity in everyday life, is a set of lecture notes that looks at how various interrelated identities, including race and class, play out in our daily routines. After these modules, please take the quiz. There are 3 readings in this module. The first, chapters 2 and 3 from Kirby Moss's 2003 book, The Color of Class, Poor Whites and the Paradox of Privilege. As an African-American graduate student at the University of Texas at Austin, Moss returned to his Midwestern hometown to study the working class and poor whites. His research pointed to the close intersection between race and class in the American imagination. Chapter 2 looks at the relation between race and class in local high schools. In Chapter 3, Moss ventures into a white working-class bar and encounters a lot of resistance to his privileged black presence. Second, In name-calling, objectifying poor whites, and white trash in Detroit, anthropologist John Hartigan explores how the term white trash is used to distinguish poor and middle-class whites in a racialized class hierarchy. And third, in Chapter 1 of Renegade Dreams, Lawrence Ralph introduces some of the compelling players in the Eastwood neighborhood of Chicago, including church pastors, local activists, city officials, gang members, and their grandmothers. His point through his range of stories is to move readers beyond standard stereotypes of urban gangland violence, and also to explore some of the broader contexts of power and access to city resources. The city also looks at competing visions of development in Eastwood. These readings are followed by study questions. To complete Module 5, you have 2 assignments. The first is a short ethnographic assignment on the middle class. Based on your assumptions, our chapter readings, and a little field work, I'd like you to describe a few key cultural practices and material cultural objects associated with the middle class. The second is the midterm exam, which covers modules 1 through 5. In Module 6, we turn to spatial diversity and borderlands. Spatializing diversity helps us to visualize cultural difference in the United States. The concept of borders has already been introduced in Randall McGuire's article on rematerializing the border in Ambos Nogales. The borderlands concept also helps us to think about how borders operate in multiple ways to create both enforcement, exclusion, and conflict on the one hand, and mixing and cultural hybridity on the other. Moreover, if the notion of cultural borderlands arose primarily in relation to the U.S.-Mexico border region, we'll find that the borderlands concept may also be useful much closer to home.